Welcome to a 4-day series, all based upon subconscious reprogramming. Unlock your potential, break free from self sabotage and personal limitations. My name is Michael. I am a clinical hypnotherapist. I also go by the spiritual name Tanashka, but my main passion and excitement is teaching, is sharing with people how to be empowered, sharing everything a person needs to know about their subconscious so they never need a healer or need a clinical hypnotherapist again. Because once they know how to work with their subconscious, once they know the right information, they could really make their own transformations highly effective and keep going, really. You could keep your transformation going all the time. You could just get better and better and better all the time. And so this is what I do. I am your subconscious specialist. There is a lot to cover in this first lesson. So I'm just going to be flowing through it pretty quickly. By all means, feel free to pause this video and go from there. A warming welcome. I'd like to first start off with the favorite saying that I have kept dearly to my heart over the many years, and I formulated this saying, this quote, when I was going through my own personal transformation, and that is to give your life so much meaning, you simply will not stop yourself. So, over the next 4 days, you'll dive into foundational principles for reprogramming your subconscious mind using simple, conscious, everyday techniques. Simple really is the best. So, these lessons are principles you can enact throughout your day in an easy and effective mindful approach to receive effective results. Just some side notes, if you enjoy these lessons and can see the value in them, I'd like you to know this is a foundational level. My main teachings get into a deepened subconscious reprogramming. Although these 4 days are quite foundational and simple, they are actually still to this day very powerful principles that anybody, when used correctly, can really transform their life. The fuller deepened subconscious reprogramming course that I offer gets into core building blocks that make up one's self-worth, self-esteem, self-efficacy, confidence, and many more self-concepts. And once you tap into the core of all of these self-concepts, you could really make transformation quick and effective. And so one of the main intentions I had when beginning to teach, and not only that, but going through my own transformation, was to find the quickest and most effective way to transform oneself. And so all of this information has really been based around clinical hypnotherapy sciences or principles. Have taken some ideas from different spiritual literature as well as practicality. But the main core, the brunt of it, is based all around clinical hypnotherapy sciences. So if you are looking for a profound shift in your life, I can be your guide to get you there fast, because I have definitely done it myself. So this 4-day series is built based upon the common denominator of transformation. The information in this 4-day series has come forth after having integrated many of my own personal transformations, as well as relating that and helping other clients transform themselves. And so I've been able to find the common denominator and then formulated it into foundational principles. Since then, with testing these foundational principles, they have proven to stand the test of time while working with many other clients go through their own transformation. So these lessons are important components that are a powerful doorway to reprogram your subconscious mind. Do not disregard them, even though they're simple and very, very simple concepts. Instead of disregarding them as simple and whatever, practice them. Practice them throughout your day. They will be what supports deeper, more integrative subconscious work later on. And these simple principles can really transform your life over time. So let me start by asking you, do you ever feel like the biggest obstacle is the person in the mirror? I know once upon a time that was me. Whether it's about overcoming self doubt, stepping into your full worth, learning to become resourceful, or even letting go, letting what doesn't serve you go. What about the universe seeming to go against you? I remember the day where I felt like no matter what I did, it feels like the universe was against me. What I learned over the many years, the universe just reflects back what we output from our subconscious. What we put out is what we get back. Vibrationally speaking, what I give out is what I get back. That is a foundational, universal conscious law. And it is precise. I will say that. That universal law, what we give out is what we get back, is precise on a vibrational level, on a subconscious vibrational level. That is a very precise law. I've seen it perfectly work. So, as you are ready to discover the untapped potential that lies within you, waiting to be unleashed, are you? I think that was a question I was supposed to ask you. Are you ready? Because I personally know the power of consciousness. And if you are here seeing this, watching this, you have consciousness. And I know the potential you have because you are a human being and you are consciousness. You are I am presence. And everybody that has consciousness, that is that I am presence, has such a powerful potential. And it's just about synchronizing yourself with the full aspect of you, your subconscious, or I like to say it, my full conscious self. Because when the conscious mind syncs up with the heart space or the subconscious, and the subconscious really operates through the heart space, through emotion, feeling. Emotion and feeling is the medium of the subconscious. And so when the mind synchronizes with the heart, you get the full conscious aspect of yourself. So get ready to explore foundational surface level steps to ultimately free yourself, to unlock your potential, to better shift yourself to a better version of you. What if the key of transforming your life was already within your potential and all you needed was a different perspective? So, first of all, who am I? Why am I here? And what makes me someone to share this type of information? I mean, sure, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. But the main important component with all of this, you could disregard all of it, having certificates and whatnot, it doesn't really mean too much to me anymore. It's really about how I got into this, my story of my own transformation. Because I'll just share it really briefly. You could find my full description and my full story online. Back in 2010, I ended up in the hospital. I had severe depression and anxiety, chronic anxiety. I ended up in the hospital with some heart palpitations and irregular heartbeats, as well as my kidneys and bladder were starting to malfunction. And I went through a full series of tests. This went through many years. The doctors had no idea and basically started to experiment with different medications. At that time, my depression got worse, and keep this story short right now, I was almost at the point of suicide, but I decided instead of taking my life, I decided to take my life into my own hands. I mean, I knew my body better than anybody would. The doctors, as much as they had, all the intention to help me, it basically was just me realizing that, well, my body can, I know my body better than they do. And so what's actually happening in my body? And I dedicated myself to that. And that led me into a lot of different sciences, subconscious sciences, it led me into spiritual arts and, meditations, yoga, things like that, Qigong, Tai Chi, Chinese medicine, learning about the meridian networks, etc., and all of those aspects. And eventually I got into clinical hypnotherapy. It transformed my life in a very quick amount of time. And I realized, hey, like this is working. I wanted to know everything I possibly could about it. And so I went and at first I got into it just for personal development, but I found that I was actually really good at it as well. And so clinical hypnotherapy was just where the rubber met the road for me. My transformation all of a sudden just took off, and I was like looking back like, wow, how did I transform myself from heavy depression and thoughts of suicide to having more excitement than I can ever realize I could have ever had. to the point where I've been cutting back my sleep because I'm just so excited for life and I want to do more and more and more. I'm very much an entrepreneur right now. I have multiple things going on, and I know if I could do this, anybody else can. So I'm very passionate about teaching. I really want to give back this information to the world, just as I had lots of beautiful teachers and mentors as I was going through my struggles. I really wanted to condense and really, get the juicy information out and share it with other people. So this is what this 4 day series is about. It's really just uh, uh, something I wanted to give back to the world free of charge. It works. So one thing I would like to do is just to be upfront and say personal change transformation takes integration. Integration is the key word here. Chances are you won't get life changing results in the actual 4 days. You might, however, have a shift in perception that starts a new profound momentum that completely changes your life going forward in an empowering and beneficial way. So, even I'm just going to share off topic here, even in one on one clinical hypnotherapy sessions, a hypnotherapy session, somebody could have a profound realization, just a realization that completely transforms the way they look at themselves. But the thing is, if they don't integrate what they've realized, it's going to be like a dream. They're going to, just like as you go to bed at night and you dream, you have a beautiful dream and experience in a dream. Hopefully, it's beautiful, and then you wake up in the morning and within 5 minutes, you're thinking about your dream. Oh, wow, that's such an amazing dream. Within 5 minutes, it disappears and fades into the mind and disappears, and you may not ever think of that dream ever again. And so, this is kind of what it's like when we have these profound realizations. It's really about integration, it's really about taking the lessons and integrating it. So, to now go back to this lesson, this again is more based around surface principles that can over time change your life's momentum. When I say this again, I'm meaning the 4 day series here. If you want rapid results, you'll definitely want to. Oh, I did a little bit of sales here. You'll want to inquire about the fuller, deeper subconscious course that I offer. And I mean, there is a lot of truth to that. I really go into self concepts, self worth, self esteem, self efficacy, all of those things. If you really want to transform your life quickly, you really want to dive into the core of that, really get into the slow down brainwave state, accessing those core principles, and yeah, you can really see profound shifts quickly. So I am someone who gives real practical information. This is not a fairy tale or fluff talk. This is practical life. With real life, we need real practices. These surface lessons in this 4 day series are highly effective when practiced. I can definitely guarantee you that. I would like to note and be upfront. Just a continuation. These 4 lessons might be information you already know. Notice how I quoted the know. Chances are you will be reviewing information you might have a sense of already knowing, but big but. Have you acknowledged how to use this information to your advantage, or are you unconsciously using this information I'll be sharing against yourself? There is a quote: simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Leonardo da Vinci. The thing with knowing is a lot of people know it, they've heard of it, but they don't actually practice it. And if you do not practice and integrate it, you don't actually know it. You just hear of information. You know the information, but you do not embody it, which makes you not actually fully know it. And so it's a really big issue there because you could have already come across the most powerful, transformative information and ideas that would could transform your life. But if you didn't integrate it, chances are it's in 1 year out the next, or in 1 year, ooh, that feels really good. It sounds really good. But then life goes on and that information goes out the other year. So to get the most out of these 4 days, it is recommended to take notes, ask questions. There will be a Q&A afterwards, and put it into practice. So, final notes before getting into the lesson. I know there's a lot of build-up, but it's really important uh, information here. Again, personal change, transformation is about integration. The amount of times I need to say that is so important. And you could probably just walk away with the idea of integration and to get so much benefit out of it. But there's actually a lot more good information to come. So in the integration, repetition, and practice is your friend. This is why I offer a longer and deeper subconscious course because information can easily come into the mind just as easily as it can leave the mind, like a fleeting thought. But when you actually integrate information, it becomes who you are. As you anchor it in, it changes who you are. So as I share this, people will listen, it will make sense, but very few people will practice it. They won't see real results and they will keep searching for that juicy information, wasting more and more time. So, one thing I will say upon this matter or manifestation is condensed energy. Consciousness is subtle energy. So momentum in practice compounds energy. So when we practice something, the subtle energy is then compounded into condensed energy. And that's when we get the manifestation. That's when we get the physicality effect in our body. And it just, if that doesn't make sense, then well, so practice is what it's about. Integration is what it's about. All right. So let's start this series off with perspective. So this is a very, very simple lesson. It's so profound, a powerful lesson that is often overlooked. This lesson can transform the way you interpret your reality, influencing your thoughts, emotions, and eventually actions. Definition of perspective is a particular attitude toward or way of regarding something, a point of view. Perspective has the power to influence a belief based upon your unique orientation. A belief is a decision that something is true, not for everybody, for you, in the presence or absence of evidence. Perspective directly influences beliefs. And I'll be sharing that later on in day 4 about beliefs, but perspective directly influences beliefs. How easy a perspective can change. So, an example, a man walks onto a public bus with his 2 kids, imagining 2 kids and their father walks onto this bus. And the 2 kids are quite irritated. They're screaming, they're shouting, they're in a sense crying. They don't want to go on the bus. They're very uh, disruptive. And the old man has his head down and he just walks the kids onto the bus. And so this old man finds 2 seats where these 2 kids sit down. And this man walks just past them, just behind the seat, and sits down with this very old, frail fellow. And so as the man sits down, he puts his head down, closes his eyes, and sits as the bus drives off. Unfortunately, the kids are still being rambunctious. They are kicking the seats. They are whining, complaining. They don't want to be on that bus. And they're just getting louder and louder and not having a good time. Meanwhile, other people on the bus are looking over and they keep staring at the kids, staring at the man, and not saying anything, however. But there's just this very negative feeling and sensation that's happening. This older man, this frail man sitting beside the man with the 2 kids, eventually gets very frustrated and irritated and angry and starts to say, "Come on, man, like, what are you doing?" And eventually taps this guy on the shoulder because he's not moving his head up and says, "Excuse me, sir, are those your 2 kids?" Yes. And this old man's like, "Aren't you going to do anything about that? They're getting louder. They're being very disrespectful, and they're causing a loud disturbance on the bus." So this old man had this tone of very much anger and frustration in his voice. And this man eventually opens his eyes and looks at the man and says, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do. My wife just passed away in the hospital. That's where we came from. I don't know what to do. don't know how to handle myself. My kids don't know what to do. I'm lost. And boom, right there, everything changed. The old man goes from angry, frustrated to compassion to uh, apologetic. And not only that, but other people on the bus heard about that, of what this man was saying. And even them, they changed their tone. It went from very negative tone on the bus to all of a sudden lots of compassion. Wow. And so, how powerful a perspective can change simply by having more information. Now, if that old frail man did not say anything, what would have happened? People would have went off the bus and maybe shared with their friends and family, oh my God, the bus is not a good place. It's so disruptive. And man, I can't believe, people can't take care of their kids, and maybe sharing in this negative tone and going out into the world, spreading that negative experience with other people. And the momentum can build that way. But because that old frail man actually said something and um, gathered more information, now people may be leaving that bus and going, wow, you never know what's happening with people. And, it's, and they're sharing these stories about, wow, like maybe we need to be more compassionate with other people. And so it's quite powerful how easy a perspective can change. Becoming aware, realizing, or learning information can instantly shift one's perspective. It could be as simple as gathering somebody else's perspective. Shifting perspectives is very subtle, yet it has such a powerful effect the more the momentum builds. Perspective changes emotion, right? All of a sudden we go from, in that example, anger to compassion. How quick it shifted just by with more information. Not only that, but ourselves as well. How we perceive ourselves, how we show up in the world. And so if you have an ability to think, to feel, to act, to walk and talk, then you have a potential to do just about anything else anybody else can do. Anything anyone else can do. The main difference is in our consciousness, because the body is really just a vehicle. It's all about our consciousness. A powerful quote by Neville Goddard: I may conceive myself to be a rich man, a poor man, a beggar man, or a thief, but the center of my being remains the same. Regardless of the concepts I hold of myself, like rich man, poor man, etc. At the center of manifestation, there is only one I am, manifesting in legions of forms or concepts of itself, and I am that I am. A powerful quote. And so it's really about how we perceive ourself, not only ourself, but situations around us can really determine a lot about what we say about who we are. Who am I? I am this, I am that. I was talking to a CEO not long ago, or quite a long time ago. Let's quite a long time ago. I was talking with the CEO, and he said, you know, anybody could come in to a corporation, and we can teach them any job within that corporation, any job. But the main thing that they cannot teach, the main thing that the person couldn't teach, CEO, is emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, how a person perceives themselves, how they perceive other people, how they connect with their emotions, nobody can teach. Only a person can do their inner work. I mean, I obviously have been in this industry for a while with subconscious work, so I can teach how to help somebody do their inner work. But a CEO can't teach that. All they could teach is the jobs and how to do a job correctly. And so the main moral of the story is, if you have emotional intelligence and you know how to do your inner work, your personal development, and know how to connect to those self concepts, self worth, self identity, and all those things, and work through those things and become emotionally stable and understand yourself, understand your perception of who you are, You can rise in a corporation very quickly if you want to, because you understand things on a deeper level. You know how to change your perception very quickly. You know how to ask the right questions, etc. So, why is it that our perspectives, which run our life, the beliefs that run our life, are primarily based on perceptions that are often formed with limited information? Let me explain that further. So, typically as a kid, we are self focused. As a kid, between 0 and 7, our brain hasn't fully developed yet, and we cannot decipher our expression versus who we are. There's no difference of an action being bad versus I am bad. It's all one as a kid. And a simple lesson from our parents or teachers can be misinterpreted and form in the minds of that child as self-inflicted shame or guilt. For example, let's say a child is watching cartoons. And in the cartoon, maybe it's some type of cartoon that's a little bit violent. Bugs Bunny and Tweety Show is a little bit violent. I remember watching that. And the child sees a cartoon character take a pan and hit the other cartoon character with the pan and starts laughing. And so the child sees this and starts laughing with the laughing character on TV and thinks, oh, this is a great idea. So the child then walks away from the TV, goes to get a pan, takes the pan, and hits their sibling with the pan. The parent, all of a sudden, starts shouting and yelling and teaches the child the lesson. That's bad, or whatever they do. And what happens is, as a kid, being self-focused, the kid doesn't know what an expression, doesn't know the difference between what the expression is and who they are. And so when a parent says that was bad, the child self-inflicts that I am bad. And so most of the time, most adults are walking around with these programs that have not been updated. Most humans do not update their subconscious programs that were formed from being a kid. We're walking around with the perception of ourselves, I am bad, I am this, I am that, I'm incapable, I'm unworthy, I'm not good enough, who makes me someone think that I can do this, etc. And you kind of get the idea. And so we form these perspectives based upon a lot of the time limited information. So personal limitations and restrictions are typically caused by what we believe to be true about ourselves, how we perceive ourselves. Well, how do we perceive ourselves? Where is that information coming from? Most of the time, it's we don't see the full picture. We don't understand the bigger picture. We can't process the bigger picture. Understanding that as a child, oh, I was watching TV. Well, the TV was the bad thing. That cartoon was bad. The show of what the potential is to hit someone else with a pen. And as a kid, it's not the kid's fault. The kid is a very fertile mind. What they'll mimic what they see. And so is the child actually bad for doing that? No, the TV was actually teaching the child a bad thing. So that's the bigger picture. And so the child wasn't actually bad at all. It was just living an unlimited potential of what it could do. And how beautiful that realization can be. So how we perceive ourselves is often based upon our interactions with the outside world, with outside influences, parents, teachers, etc. But what is often not acknowledged, but what often is acknowledged is not the full picture. So oftentimes we don't know the full picture. We don't know what's going through the minds of other people. They may say opinions and comments, but we don't fully understand the bigger picture. So what can we do? Well, we could ask questions. We could try to do the best we can to understand the bigger picture. Most of the time we don't. So we don't often fully know the intentions or agendas of others. We could just make assumptions, the best guesses for ourselves. So instead, we assume not seeing the full picture and form a false or limited perspective that can affect our thoughts, emotions, actions, and in the end, our outcome in life. Because it all has momentum. Throughout our entire life, we are subject to all types of information. Depending on preconceived notions and themes that we are subject to or exploring will determine a great portion of how we process information, what information we accept or reject, and how we conclude our perception of ourselves. So, a lot there. The summary of all this: we form perceptions about ourselves often based upon limited information, often from other people's comments or opinions about us. Then perceptions directly influence beliefs. And I'll explain this in the last lesson a little bit more. How we process information, what information we accept or reject, and how we conclude our perceptions of ourself is often determined by our beliefs about ourselves. It's basically self-perpetual. And so as a kid, if we form beliefs based upon limited information, it's self-perpetual. We keep processing information in a limiting way until we update them. So based upon limited information, we will often conclude this is just who I am. This is the way it is. It runs in the family. Well, what else runs in the family? Beliefs, perspectives, perceptions, those kinds of things. There's a beautiful book called Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. And he basically, basic summary. There's so much beautiful information in the book. I highly recommend reading it. The basics, in the basic form, our genetics are programmable by our beliefs. Might take a moment to think about that. Beliefs. Our genetics are programmable by our beliefs. That's science. Bruce Lipton. Highly recommend the book. The solution. How quickly can you change your perspective of a situation or circumstance? This is a great exercise for you to do every day if you can. How can you gain more information to better conclude who you deem yourself to be? How can you see your past mistakes as lessons rather than failures? How many ways can you view one set of facts? What questions can you ask others and yourself? How many conclusions can you think of based on one set of facts? The more you practice the ability to change between different perspectives using questions, the more power you will have to be able to diminish and even eliminate personal limitations or resistances very quickly. Not only that, self-sabotage as well. This concludes the first day. Very simple yet powerful concept to start to integrate into your everyday life. There are two main ways to use this concept. Examining your past, why and how did you conclude who you are the way that you did? Did you conclude who you are based upon assumptions, opinions, or limited information? Number two, bringing greater curiosity into your everyday life going forward. How can more information help you shape a better perspective of a situation? Start asking yourself why. Why do I instantly perceive it this way? Ask more questions. Investigate more information from many perspectives before coming to a conclusion. Shifting perspective is very subtle at first. Yet we all know perceiving a situation differently can turn into a different conversation than we might have had otherwise. Conversation might present an opportunity. Opportunity might get us into an action. Actions change our life. So perception changes the way we perceive something. It changes our emotion. It changes the conversations that we might have and the outcome of how we change our perceptions. And all of that builds momentum to the point where, hey, all of a sudden we're taking action based upon a conversation that we had, and boom, our life starts to change and shift and move in new directions. So knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do. Johann Wolfgang van Gogh. That is it for today's lesson. Hopefully you got a lot of great information in that. Bye for now.